Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome back to the Mastery class. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the day trading computers that we use. Now, these are things to consider when purchasing or building a new trading computer. These are just general things, again, that nothing is ever hard set when you're talking about technology, and things will change. So keep in mind, I'm recording this on November 11 of 2016, depending on when you're watching this. Now, when it comes to trading computers, there are several things to take into consideration. First of all, before you even get started in the process, you need to know your budget ahead of time. What are you looking to spend? Are you going to spend $5,000 on a computer? Are you going to spend $1,000? What are your goals here? Another thing to consider is, are you going to build it, or are you going to have a third-party company build it for you? And then what are you planning on doing with the computer? Is it your office computer that you're only using to trade with? Is it going to be a household computer that you'll trade with, but you're also going to use it for other things? Or is it just kind of a miscellaneous computer where you're going to be trading with it, but you're also going to have things like gaming and video editing and storage for family pictures and things? These are all things you need to consider before you start looking at the computer so you know kind of what you're going for. Now, when it comes to budget, this is where you need to be realistic, as this is the entire premise of what you're going to be looking at in terms of getting into when it comes to computers. Spending a huge amount of money on a computer, a $10,000 computer, that's not necessary for what we're doing, but spending too little can cause issues as well. So really, we need to find that good common ground and what fits your needs. Generally, a normal trading computer can be built or bought anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. You can obviously go way higher than that, and you can also go lower than that. And, that's kind of the general area that most people will find themselves falling into, is between $1,000 and $2,000. Now, don't forget about extras as well. If you're going to be setting up a computer that's going to run 6 monitors, you're going to have to buy the monitors too. There's cabling, there's keyboards and mouse, there's the router, there's the desk, the chairs, etc. You need to have all of that in mind too, because those can be forgotten costs that will easily blow a budget out of the water. So first off, are you going to build it or are you going to buy it? This aspect really comes down to your personal comfort level on building a computer. If you're not familiar with it, I would recommend buying one instead. Now, that said, later in the future, if you get into it and you really want to build your own, then by all means. But practice building a cheaper computer first to get used to it. Remember, this machine is our livelihood. This is what we're using to trade. This needs to be done well. If you're going to build the machine, make sure that all of your parts are compatible with one another. That's one thing that a lot of people will run into, where they'll buy all the parts and then realize this isn't compatible with that, and then you have to go through this dirty return process and get a new part. It's just a pain. Websites like PCPartPicker.com, their guides section can help you ensure that your parts are solid and that they should work together. If you're going to buy a computer, make sure you're getting it from a reputable builder. Several online companies, one of my favorites, iBuyPower, can be phenomenal places to build up a computer and have them build it for you and send it to you in relatively short order. So keep those types of options in mind. Now, when it comes to the specs, this is for trading. We're not, massive gamers or anything like that, unless you plan on building the computer for that. So the specs are very important. We need to ensure that the computer is running smoothly, but also efficiently. The faster we can get an order executed, the better. And a laggy machine, that doesn't help, right? So the general specs to consider, and of course, the higher the better, but a processor speed of at least 3.2 gigahertz quad core, meaning that there are 4 cores. Now, obviously, you can get 10 core processors, you can go crazy here, but a quad-core 3.2 or higher should be good. When it comes to the RAM, 8 gigs of RAM. Now, that's on the lower end. If you can get away with going higher than that, 12, 16, you can even go all the way up to 32 and 64, and some machines you can go crazy, but at least 8 gigs of RAM. When it comes to the hard drive, solid-state drives, SSDs, work really, really well because they are really fast, and that's what we're looking for. We need speed. We need the computer to run very efficiently. Graphic cards, something that a lot of traders don't really put a whole lot of thought into, but it's an important part of how you're setting the computer up. You need to make sure that you have enough power for the amount of monitors you want to run. Generally, in terms of the cards, a 1 gigabit card should be good for what we're doing. Again, you can go higher than that. But if you're going to be running multiple monitors, make sure that your cards can support those. If you're going to be running 6 monitors, as an example, doing it with 1 graphic card probably isn't going to work. You're going to need to get 2. And that means that the motherboard is going to have space for 2. So there are extra considerations that you have to keep in mind if you're building it. And then another thing that a lot of folks forget about is the power supply. Make sure that you get a power supply that can handle all of the parts that you're putting into the machine. And then the computer cooling. Liquid cooling is king here, but if you're going to go a different route, just make sure that it's enough to keep things nice and cool so that you get the most out of the life of the machine. There's nothing worse than getting everything set up, getting the computer nice and running, and then all of a sudden it blows up on you because it got too hot, and now you're back to square one again. So cooling is a very important part. Other considerations, other things to keep in mind here are going to be, how upgradable is the machine? If you want to keep your machine around for a while and you're going to invest a decent chunk of money in it, does it have extra space to expand if needed? You don't want to get a computer that you're maxing out unless you're going way over the top in specs. Buying a computer that has a max capacity of 8 gigs of RAM is going to cause some problems in the future, especially if you want to upgrade it to like 16 in a year. Well, now you can't, and now you have to rebuild another computer. So make sure there's some room to upgrade it. Don't take the cheap way out on the machine. You can go on the budget side of things, but remember, this is how you plan to take your trades, and this is the basis of your career. We're traders that operate online via a computer. Spending a bit more for a much better machine can be a great thing to invest in. Consider using an external drive for mass storage so you don't bog down the main machine and its hard drives. External hard drives come in gargantuan sizes now. You can get 2-3 terabyte hard drives that are external, just plug in USB or even over the network, and they're really cheap. So you can get those to load up all of your pictures and all your backups and all of that stuff, and it doesn't bog down the main computer. And then another really important thing is a battery backup, like the ones from the company APC. They can be a phenomenal investment to ensure that things stay in operation as long as possible, especially if your house gets power surges or if you happen to be in a bad weather area in whatever country you're living in. The last thing you want to have happen is to build everything, dump a bunch of money into a computer, and then have a power outage and it blows the whole thing up. And then something that a lot of traders need to pay attention to, and really everybody in my opinion, is a comfortable keyboard and mouse that fit you well. This is all based on ergonomics. We spend hours on our machines. We don't need to add carpal tunnel to the things that we have to concern ourselves with. Now, a good computer chair, a desk, for the very same reason. Just make sure that it's comfortable. You're going to be spending hours in front of this machine. You don't want to have it hurting you in the long run. So again, these are just general overviews. Things can go a lot crazy and you can get way in depth on a lot of this, but it's a good starting point just to keep things in mind when you're looking at building or buying a new computer. If you have any questions about anything that we talked about here, you can always send me an email, jbrink@slingshotfutures.com. Happy building or buying, and we will see you in the next video.